So, one of the side effects of New York giving a, well, for lack of a better word, minimum wage, apparently rides are definitely down.
Xbox, Twitter, Uber,
Postmates,
Netflix, MoviePass,
Google,
Facebook, eBay,
DoorDash,
Apple, Amazon, Airbnb,
The Apptrepreneur. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and I know I'm going to probably mess up a part of the story in New York. New York is so complicated. I will never fully understand how Uber and Lyft in New York works, because I have it on very good authority that the minimum wage thing in New York is not actually a minimum wage. I know it doesn't work out that way, and yet every time I get an article like the one we're going to talk about, they say minimum wage. So apologies in advance that this is probably going to... I can only show what I know, and I don't drive in New York. I wish that there are other YouTube channels out there, NYC Vlog, he's a good one, who drive in New York who can better articulate these things. And yet I do want to at least talk about something that I think is fairly universal, because this is one of the things that Uber and Lyft are concerned about, and that is the fact that making them raise the price on any level will ultimately result in fewer rides. However, before we talk about any of that, let's have a word from our sponsors.
If you have rideshare insurance, you know what a disaster it is. It's super expensive. Some guys are paying over $100 a month for it on top of their regular insurance. So we're working with an insurance company to help lower prices and get better coverage. They're working on a plan where Uber and Lyft drivers will either pay by the mile or by the hour. You'll only pay for what you use, but we need some information from you, the drivers. We need to know on average how far and how long you drive with Uber and Lyft each week. So would you click on the link below in the description and take just 5 minutes to fill out the survey? We'd really appreciate it.
So here's from Business Insider. Uber and Lyft rides are down in New York City thanks to a minimum wage rule that drove up prices. Analysts say it could have been even worse. So that's the headline. Those aren't my words, it's the headline. And by the way, it's interesting, Uber and Lyft are up today. People are taking fewer Uber and Lyft rides in New York City, the United States' most lucrative and important market for ride-hailing, but an analyst says the drop isn't as bad as some had feared. According to data from the city's Taxi and Limousine Commission, analyzed by Bloomberg News, the total number of Uber riders fell about 8% from March to May, while Lyft rides fell slightly by about 0.4%. New York City early this year imposed a minimum wage law for ride-hailing service drivers. It met with stiff opposition from Lyft over how the wage was calculated, and it pushed up passenger fares throughout the 5 boroughs. But Eric Sheridan, an analyst at UBS, said the regulatory changes had far less of an effect than some had forecast. Quote, data from the NYC TLC indicates that higher prices have had minimal impact on demand, measured as growth in numbers of trips in high-volume FHV services, indicating Uber and Lyft may have more pricing power than investors think, he said in a note to clients Tuesday. Quote, we would argue that observing fairly stable volume growth rates following increasing prices 10 to 20% and layered in the $2.75 congestion tax is a positive sign, even if you assume Lyft and Uber gave back some of the base fare prices increase in the form of incentives promotions. An Uber representative said that the biggest decline due to price hikes was in the company's shared rides, and that March to April is usually a decline, but was larger this year, likely because of the price increases. And you know, that makes sense. I mean, the price goes up, you don't want to use it as much. It's just common sense. Oops, it went too far there. Riders who tend to take Uber Pool generally have more price sensitivity, the Uber representative added. Lyft did not respond to a request for comment. The minimum wage rules have, quote, translated into pretty substantial price increases to the consumer, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi said on the company's first quarter earnings call in May. But overall, if you look at the dollar growth rate in New York, it's still a healthy city for us. Oh boy, interesting. Like, it's still a healthy city. So even though it costs them some business, yeah, they had to pay the drivers a little bit more. Yeah, they had to do all these things. Still a healthy business for them. I wonder if he's going to regret that comment at some point. So, anyway, here's the thing, and here's what I've been telling people for a long time. Because one of the arguments people have against a minimum wage, unionization, whatever you want to call it, is that, hey, if Uber and Lyft have to pay us more, they have to pass those costs to the consumer. And when they have to pass those costs to the consumer, you will get less rides, therefore you will make less money. here's the thing, folks. A couple things to keep in mind. First of all, Uber actually was the one who started this whole, if you get more rides, you'll make more money, even if you're making less money, and their own data disproved that. So no, if you get paid more money, and especially in a market where I don't think you can get any more rides if you tried, you will just simply get more money. And yeah, there will be some rides that go down. Like 8% isn't exactly a number to sneeze at. It's not the end of the world, though. It really isn't. In fact, I would venture to guess that most of that 8% of people who stopped driving Uber and Lyft, who started taking Uber and Lyft, were probably cheapskate bum riders. These are the people who never tip, who come into your car smelling of cigarette, booze, and marijuana smell. They're the ones who demand free water and to charge their phone, and they're really loud on the phone. Then they give you like 3 stars or 2 stars because they don't like the way your car looks. It's like, the car was like a puke green color. I don't like that. Those are probably the people who stopped using Uber and Lyft first. However, businessmen, middle-class people, the everyday folks, the ones who have like a genuine need to actually get home, people who don't want a DUI, who are drunk and intoxicated, these people are all going to continue using the service because it's still cheaper than taxis. And it's still way more convenient than taxis. Like, the Uber app and the Lyft app are super, super convenient. Even with less cars, you just have to press a button and put in your destination address. It doesn't get a whole lot simpler than that. Where the taxis, you still got to call them out, like on the phone, or you have to wave them down, and it's a much, much bigger hassle, and they're still more expensive. So this is, you know, not terribly surprising in the latest. But here's what it says. It says that, yes, you can raise the prices. You can raise the fares. And it really doesn't matter too much. You will lose a few people. But if everyone's making more money in general, who cares if you lose the few people who, frankly, aren't going to pay for much things anyway? I mean, I'm kind of reminded of the story of that Delta Airlines CEO who was constantly getting complaints from a passenger who was always asking for refunds on flights because she was never, ever happy with the service. And hey, if you didn't give me the refund, if you didn't take care of me, I was going to trash you on Yelp. I'm never going to use your service again. And the CEO wrote her a letter basically saying, you know what, we kind of consider you to be a low priority passenger because nothing we do is ever good enough. We have done everything we can to meet you on your terms. You don't even care about what we do anymore. So you know what? Go bother someone else if it means that much to you. Now, I'm paraphrasing, of course. It was a much nicer FU email than you would typically get. But that's what happens. And that's what's happening with Uber or Lyft. Personally, I'd like to see the study to see if the Uber drivers in New York, I would really like to see if they're getting treated better in general by the passengers. Like, are they getting as many of the problem passengers, if you will? Are they getting as many as of the pool riders who can never be satisfied because the prices have been increased? I would really, really like to know if that is the case, because I think that would be a win, personally. To not have to deal with some of those people, I think that would be a win. However, we still have to go a little bit longer, find out what the long-term ramifications are going to be. However, we already have our first data that, you know what, Uber and Lyft drivers are still very, very high in demand. They can still work within the system, and people will still pay to use the service, and they'll only lose a little itty-bitty bit of those customers. However, I'm going to pass the question on to you now. What do you think, especially if you drive in New York? Have you noticed a difference in how many rides you get, how you're treated by the passengers, your pay? Have you noticed any of this? Because I would really like to know. So, here's what I would like you to do. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if gas prices are getting you just a little down, check out the Get Upside app below. It's totally free, but you get cash back on every gas purchase. If you want more content from me, subscribe to my other YouTube channels, Kevin T. Rodriguez and the Apptrepreneur Vlogs. The content there is different. However, you might still find it interesting. And finally, if you want to talk to me or other fellow rideshare drivers, check us out at the Apptrepreneur Hangouts on Facebook. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.